So hello, we're at the Puerto Rico Manufacturers Association's annual convention, and we are doing on the hour, every hour, we are doing tech talks with important industry leaders on the island of Puerto Rico, talking about important technology, future projects for the island, and important technologies to enable those different sectors. So our guest today is Iván Lugo. Iván is the executive director for INDUNIV, which is the Industry-University partnership on the island of Puerto Rico. Iván, maybe you could talk a little bit about, that partnership specific to the bioscience industry, and what makes Puerto Rico differentiated within that industry.
Sure. Well, INDUNIV is Industry-University Research Center. INDUNIV has been around for 39 years in Puerto Rico, and the board of directors of INDUNIV is composed of the members of the government. Secretary Manuel Sidre is a member of the board. We the president of the University of Puerto Rico, Luis Ferrao, as vice president of the board, Lucy Crespo from the Science Trust. Our president is Alejandro Toro, and our secretary from Lilly. So we have folks from different companies, as well as suppliers of services in Puerto Rico. So it is literally a bioscience cluster. That was the concept that it was created. And why a bioscience cluster in Puerto Rico? What is the significance and the relevance throughout the 39 years? Well, the industry has been around for 60 years. And it's throughout that time we have been able to position Puerto Rico as the largest exporter of pharmaceutical products of any state in the nation, and one of the top in the world. But more so, and something that I'm very proud, I want to, if you allow me, I can share a slide that I have here.
Yeah. Oh, wait, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
If I can grab the slide, because I think that it's important to really highlight the significance of this industry in Puerto Rico. And throughout those 60 years, Puerto Rico has been able to develop a specialized workforce in 4 of the 5 areas of the bioscience sector. And this means that Puerto Rico is the only one of states with that outstand, as specialized employment in the pharmaceutical, in medical device, in science-related distribution, and medical research. So this is something that we should be, and thanks to our universities and the partnership with the government and the industry, that we have been able to position ourselves to be one of the top jurisdictions of specialized employment in all the United States. But this is what we have built. We have built an ecosystem that is a very strong ecosystem that had attracted throughout the years, significant number of companies that you can see there, with exports from Puerto Rico to more than 120 countries. We have the regulatory language of the world. We're all FDA jurisdiction plans. We have EMA for the European community. Also have approvals in more than 120 countries. So we do understand regulatory framework. Our companies and institutions are really keen in terms of the GMP language. Okay. But we also have a support system, which are the institutions around the island and the centers that have been developed in Puerto Rico that have enabled us, to be this competitive. And I'm not going to drill to the details. I already highlighted some of them, but I wanted to stress that Puerto Rico really is a powerhouse, and we have a significant ecosystem to compete any place around the world.
This is fascinating. Thank you. And so, Yvonne, you were one of the advisors that we worked with when we were doing our research project on the tech enablers for high growth potential industries on the island of Puerto Rico. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that aligned with what you had already identified as needs within the bioscience industry on the island, under the assumption and with the great knowledge as you've just presented that we all knew that that was going to be one of the high growth options?
Oh, definitely. I think that having in Puerto Rico such an ecosystem really position ourselves to move to the next stage. And what is the next stage? There is disruption in all the technologies, not just in the pharmaceutical, with the CRISPR technologies and new discoveries in terms of gene and cell therapies and other technologies. Things are changing, and as they change so fast, we need to really not just adapt and acquire, but also to be the innovators in the different sectors. But in order to be innovators, we need to have the talent and prepare for those new technologies and innovations. And again, I'm going to share you some highlights here, because it is important to understand, where pharmaceuticals are moving.
Right.
Okay, and the future is now. Okay, we're working on cell and gene therapies. The supply chain disruption is significant. We are moving from a centralized manufacturing system to more decentralized, and you have heard about onshoring, because we need to assure that we can supply the whole chain for our products, and we cannot be dependent on other countries or not as friendly countries to be able to have one of the products that sustain our health, and well-being.
Right.
So
this slide is actually a really good demonstration of the concept of 3 horizons, where you kind of track the industry where it is now. You keep looking for innovation, but you're always prepared for disruption.
Correct. And because of all these advances in medicine and in science, we are more moving toward a more personalized model in terms of treating diseases and preventing diseases. That personalization of the model changing the way that we're doing things. And it's going to take time because, you know, decentralization process, we have products that have large volumes, you know, we're still producing millions and billions of tablets of one product. So you need to have efficiencies and that's in the centralized process. But that doesn't mean that we are not changing the way that we are doing things. Okay, we need to fully integrate manufacturing. We need to disrupt and transform our supply chain to be closer to the customer, meaning the user. Okay, so eventually we want to produce at the pharmacy where the product is dispensed. Okay, but we do the modularization and the miniaturization of our technology. You know, we need to go by stages, but this is where Puerto Rico have an advantage, a significant advantage because of the know-how. We have know-how in small molecule. We have made APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients. We formulate them, we package them, we distribute to 120 countries. The same we do with the biologics. And now we have gene and cell therapies planned in Puerto Rico. So we have medical device, more than 50 plants of medical device and all the components and so on. So things continue to move. We have now what is called advanced manufacturing 4.0 or industry 4.0. But people are working on 5.0.
Right.
Okay? So, you know, where we want to be? We want to be in the tail end or on the front end. And I think that's the question. And what we need to do to be able to be in the front end. So,
and in order to do that, you have to, in fact, that was one of my favorite, the first time I met Manolo Sidra, he said to me, we were talking about a project and he said, is Puerto Rico going to lead on this or follow on this? And my answer was, we could lead, but leading requires risk because you're going to be the first.
It required not just that there is a risk, because there is a significant investment to do to be able to enable things to happen, but also because it depends how fast you want to compete. Okay, so how fast you want to the target, and do we have the critical mass? In some as we do, in others we don't.
Right.
We cannot fool ourselves. Okay, so and you know, we have talked, Gail, extensively about enabling technologies, and you know, I am a proponent that this is really an area where Puerto Rico must put a lot of the eggs, so we can harvest them in order to be able to be more competitive. But it's a significant issue of this enabling technology, aside from standardization and democratization, all the things that we talk about the time about, you know, how to have access to the technology. It is how to have an effective regulatory framework. Okay, and I'll give you an example of that framework. When we talk about the enabling technologies, the AI is something that people are talking about. Well, they're stealing my proprietary information, my copyrights, my patent, and so on, and developing better product with all this machine learning and artificial intelligence and deep learning. So one of the new concepts is, AI 2.0, which is a federated or more control system where people will feel more at ease to be able to provide information and data, because without data, AI doesn't work.
Right.
But you don't want fake data. you want good scientific data. So in order to have that, there have to be some protection in terms of the intellectual property. So federated AI 2.0 is perfect for the pharmaceutical industry, for the innovative industries, that there is a lot of intellectual property, because if you don't have that intellectual property, you will never get back on your investments. Okay.
Right. And that's what we're trying to do too, is figure out what you were just talking about, the idea that there's a lot of different ways to adopt technology strategies, and what's the right way that's customized individually for what the needs are. And I'll give the example that we were talking earlier, that between blockchain and cybersecurity and zero trust data, there's a lot of different applications, and you don't need all of them for every application. And each one will be specific to the perfect need. And the example was, even with our phones, I can have a 5G enabled phone, but it doesn't make my phone call sound any better than if I had a 3G enabled phone. But if I'm going to stream something on my phone, I need to have the 5Gs. So say, that's a simple explanation, but to your graph here, which is ideal.
Correct. And then how we look at towards the future, because things are changing so fast. Okay, a 10 gigabyte per second on 5G could be a 10,000 gigabyte per second on 6G. Okay.
Right.
So where do we want to be? Do we want to for chat GPT, or do we want to develop our GPT? Okay, so where we want to be, and I think that traditionally Puerto Rico is being in. Okay, Puerto Rico is being we buy technologies, we bring, and I'll give you some examples. I never forget when we started doing all the automation after 936 in our merit plan, that I started to bring in technologies, and we find the technologies to be able to enable what the automation we wanted to have. So do we want to be that developer, or do we want to continue buying from other people? We want to do it in-house with partnership. I know, if you don't have the critical mass that you need to make a partnership, and that's fine. Okay.
Exactly.
But partnership doesn't mean that it's going to be something that I don't have intellectual property added to the process. Okay, so we want that intellectual property to really flow. Okay, so all these elements that I lay down in this chart, we can talk a lot about that, but you know, in the areas of digital health, and I'm going to give you an example of where I am, and I think that this is the system is trying to catch up. Okay, that's where we're trying. The digital health is changing so fast because of all these AI and machine learning. Now you can take and analyze million MRIs around the world. So what will be more predictable in terms of assessing what is the disease or the outcome after you have a product being tested on the person? If you do it by a physician has a limited framework of knowledge, or you do it because there is an AI system that share all this information, factual information, scientific information, and provide you a diagnostic. So this is great.
I just saw a product like that that was actually developed by a Puerto Rican scientist.
Yes, and CHI is a consortium between Google and the Microsoft and Cleveland Clinics and Mayo Clinics. And this is what they're doing. They're looking to share information to provide better diagnostics. Okay. So it's not far. You have to be careful. And that's why I said there have to be an effective regulatory framework, because these systems that you have to validate
Right.
or how these things are done. So so that's in the digital health. Then you have all these wearables, okay, the development of wearables that help you to provide information to these systems that be able to prevent, you know,
Right. Kind of like automated studies. You don't need to necessarily run a study if you have AI in your patients. You already know what the outcomes will. You can
yeah, it's a wearable.
data.
Why do I have to go to a sonogram or to a cardiogram if I'm wearing?
Right.
Okay, so wearables definitely, and digital health is something that we have to be there. Okay, this is a niche. And we have talent in our engineering schools, in our medical schools, and so on. Medtronics, they have a laboratory where they have the models to be able to test instruments and everything else. So we can do it. So if you move then into development, process development, when you are trying to identify molecules, it will be so easy. All these data from scientific journals and through cloud and quantum computing, you can analyze all this big data, and then you can model the molecules and see the interaction with other molecules. And to do that, you can develop faster. We're talking about that you can screen millions of compounds rather than a few compounds that you can do right now. So you will accelerate development and new leads identification in terms of new products. So, and we're not far from there, but during the regulatory framework, because this is being done right now in Russia and some places in Europe, and the United States not catching up quick enough because there is no regulatory framework at the FDA to be able to do it.
So Puerto
why
Rico
I-
in that place.
Well, correct. We can help it. Okay. So the virtual augmented reality, with 3D printing, that blows your mind, because you will be able to really, with the correct data from AI, be able to really model your process and being able to do significant changes virtually.
Right.
And then you have the robotics and all the other things, I don't know if you have heard, we're in industry 4.0, but we're moving to industry 5.0. And 5.0 is really, it blows your mind because the people are interacting with the robots.
Right.
We're not just controlling, they're our friends. So.
Exactly. No, and so this is all so fascinating, Yvonne, and I'm sad to say that we're out of time because we could talk for a long time about this topic. But do you have one thing for the Puerto Rico Manufacturers Association, and you and I work together, we're working with the Puerto Rico Manufacturers Association on really I keep calling it demystifying a lot of these technologies and helping people to envision what these look like embedded within their operations. So do you have some closing thoughts for the manufacturers in Puerto Rico in terms of, how we can help them better to engage in some of these technologies?
Well, again, there are different elements. We need to work with our talent, okay? Because we have great engineering schools, we have STEM schools, and but we need also to help focus in terms of what are the things that could once you work in those areas of research, you will be able to contribute to align to the future of our economy. And I keep saying, the golden age is the pharmaceutical industry, medical device industry, bioagriculture, research. We are an ecosystem already formed. And now we have aerospace, and aerospace is not that far because we are just putting together a challenge for microgravity in the bioscience and material science and equipment. So aerospace is interconnected with bioscience, medical device. So we are far, but we need talents. Focus in certain areas. The Manufacturing Association, and I was in the board of the Manufacturing Association for many years when I was a GM of Merck. And the reality is that with the membership that the Manufacturing Association has, also INDUNIV. INDUNIV is a member of PRMA. We can all work together. We cannot be isolated. We have to work together with the other organizations, with the government, with the academia, to be able to have the leverage that we need to be able to continue attracting investments and businesses from the outside, and then creating our new companies of technology of high-tech. And I think that interaction we attract at the same time that we create internally. That's the right way to create a critical mass in Puerto Rico.
Right.
Working together will do it.
Working together is always the answer, isn't it? So thank you, Yvonne. This was a great conversation. We will make this available to the public, and we hope to have many more conversations, because again, it's about awareness, and there are applications that can transition from one industry to the next, and you're certainly one of the leaders on the island in recognizing this as an early adopter, and so we look forward to more conversations in the future. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for the invitation and success in the PRMA convention. I was unable to go.
Thank you. There is a lot of excitement and energy here, so things are really happening. But thank you, Ivan. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye now.
Bye.